But speaking of the running backs, one guy that I've found some information about here, some updates that I wanted to, because he's a guy that slips our minds a lot too. The Browns did sign Nyheim Hines, and I think with all the talk about Nick Chubb's recovery from his knee injury, we've been talking a lot about Aiden Robbins. Obviously, we had him on the show, and we're very excited about him. Like I mentioned, D'Onta Foreman, Jerome Ford. We have not seen a ton of updates on Nyheim Hines, and he's another guy. So the Browns don't just have Nick Chubb coming off a knee injury from last season. They've also got Nyheim Hines. Hines suffered, if you watched my running backs episode earlier in the offseason, you know the kind of backstory on Hines. I'll kind of refresh here. Suffered ACL injury in a jet skiing accident, just kind of a freak accident in his time off. I guess that would have been during the summer break last offseason. He was with the Bills back then. He missed the entire 2023 season. So this is where, we always talk about age with running backs and guys returning from injuries. So you look at a young guy like Jonathan Brooks, the rookie running back for the Carolina Panthers, tore his ACL back in November at Texas during the college football season, and he's already slated to return to practice in training camp for the Panthers. That's kind of his target date. If you talk to the medical staff and stuff like that, they're hoping that he's ready to participate in drills and stuff starting in training camp. Nyheim Hines tore his ACL clear back in July, almost a year ago, and he's still not able to participate in any on-field activities. And again, like I said at the top of the show, this is voluntary OTAs. I get that. So really there's no need for Nyheim Hines to rush onto the field and do any drills. Just continue to recover, recoup, make sure you're healthy. And I get all that. But there was a quote from Nyheim Hines that seemed a little bit weird when I read it. So I'm going to go through the quote. We'll talk about it. You guys drop in the comments what you think, if there was anything in here, or was he just maybe rambling and didn't really have his timeline in his head correct. I don't know what the deal was, but here's what Nyheim Hines had to say. He said to the media, "You guys will not see me out here for OTAs during practice." And this was on May 22nd. "I should be ready to go for minicamp. The goal is to be ready right around August 1st or end of July, depending on how my leg comes around. But the goal is to be out there for week 1. Okay, so if you guys are following along, let's try to unpack this a little bit. Nyheim Hines says, "I should be ready to go for minicamp." Well, minicamp starts June 11th. That's like 10, 11 days from now. And then he said the goal is to be ready around August 1st or end of July. So now we're talking like a whole nother 2 months from now. So are you ready in 2 weeks or are you ready in 2 months? And then he says, but the goal is to be out there for week 1. Well, that's the second weekend in September, dude. So which is it? This quote really baffled me a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what the timeline really is. And then the one line that he had in this quote, between these like 3 different goals that he pointed out for his return to the field, he said, "It depends on how my leg comes around." So I don't know about you guys, but that does not give me any huge, overwhelming hope that Nyheim Hines is going to be making a big impact for the Browns here this season. Obviously, bringing him in, signing with Cleveland, his connection with Ken Dorsey from Buffalo. I mean, he talked about it. That was a main factor in why he signed with Cleveland. And it's very possible maybe I'm reading too much into this quote here. I don't know. It's May. I get it. He was probably put on the spot with a question from a reporter, and he's like, "I don't really know what to tell you. I'm just talking. And then they put the quote in writing, and here I'm sitting here reading it, totally overanalyzing it. My wife would tell you that overanalyzing would probably be the case. But again, it just seemed a little bit weird. I have not, if you watch that running backs episode, I haven't been sold that Nyheim Hines even makes the roster from day one. Ever since we signed him, that was kind of my take. Like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what, if he actually does end up making the roster. I got nothing against the guy. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a very valuable skill set that would really help the Browns this season if he's healthy. But this is going to be his age 28 season, coming off a major ACL injury I'm guessing by the time he gets on the field, it's going to be over a year since he had the injury. It just does not bode well for his prospects of making this roster or, doing any sort of major impact for the team in 2024. And again, if D'Onta Foreman, Aiden Robbins, if these guys show out in camp, along with Hines still being limited in practice, until August or even later, again, he might not make the team. It's just something to keep an eye on over the summer. Just don't forget that Nyheim Hines is here, but everything I read sounds like he's still recovering. It doesn't sound like he's ready to participate anytime soon. That's kind of my takeaway from it. Again, it could be totally wrong. We will see. The only reason that, again, this stands out to me is the contrast to the other guys. You hear about glowing reports from some of these ACL tears, 8, 9, 10 months after the surgery. They're out running again. They're on track for camp or, this date or that date. And I just get this overwhelming sense of uncertainty about Nyheim Hines and his leg, recovery from his ACL injury. So I could be wrong. He could be out there participating in the mini camp on June 11th or 12th. And I'm like, hey, look, Nyheim Hines is out there. Looks like he might be okay, good to go. Or maybe he comes out first day training camp in July and it's like, cool, hey, he's back. He's ready to roll. I just have not heard much about Nyheim Hines. And typically I feel like when you don't hear news about these guys, the saying, no news is good news. Not necessarily when you're talking about these injuries, because like with Deshaun Watson the entire offseason, it's been, he's 100% recovery. They're expected for this date, expected this, expected that, ahead of schedule. You hear that all the time from these guys. So when you don't hear anything about somebody coming off of a major surgery, a major injury, it is a little bit concerning, at least in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about Nyheim Hines and all that kind of stuff.